Hi guys, this is lecture number 12, Evaluating Board Meeting Effectiveness. Evaluating the effectiveness of a board meeting allows organizations to identify areas of improvement and enhance the value of future meetings. Here are some step-by-step guidelines on how to evaluate the effectiveness of a board meeting. Step number 1. Define the meeting objectives. Before the meeting, the objectives should be clearly defined. During the evaluation process, these objectives will be used as a basis of addressing the effectiveness of meeting. Objectives should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Step number 2. Collect feedback. Feedback from the board members, attendees, and presenters is essential to evaluating the effectiveness of the meeting. Collect feedback through surveys, one-on-one meetings, or group discussions. Ask questions that are specific to the objectives of the meeting, such as whether the meeting met its objectives and whether the discussion was productive. Step number 3. Evaluate the meeting structure. The structure of the meeting can impact its effectiveness. Evaluate factors such as the length of the meeting, the order of the agenda items, and the time allocated for each item. Determine whether the structure was appropriate for achieving the meeting objectives. Step number 4. Review meeting minutes. Meeting minutes provide a record of the meeting and can be used to evaluate its effectiveness. Review the minutes to determine whether the key issues were discussed, decisions were made, and action items were assigned. Step 5. Assess decision making. Evaluate the quality of decision making during the meeting. Determine whether decisions were made based on facts and analysis, or emotions, or personal opinions. Assess the effectiveness of decision making process and whether it was aligned with the objectives of the meeting. Step 6. Analyze attendance. Evaluate attendance at the meeting. Determine whether all required attendees were present and whether anyone was absent without a valid reason. Assess whether the attendees were engaged in the meeting and whether their contributions were valuable. Step number 7. Identify areas for improvement. Use the feedback collected and the analysis performed to identify areas of improvement. Develop an action plan to address these areas and enhance the effectiveness of future meetings. Identify areas for improvement. Once the evaluation is completed, it is important to identify the areas of improvement in the board meeting. This can be done by analyzing the feedback received from the participants and identifying the common issues or concerns that were raised. It is important to prioritize the areas for improvements and develop a plan of action to address them. Implement changes. Once the areas for improvement have been identified, it is important to implement the necessary changes. This may include changes to the agenda, meeting format, or the use of technology. It is important to communicate these changes to the participants in advance and ensure that they are comfortable with the new approach. Monitor progress. It is important to monitor the progress of the changes that have been implemented and track their effectiveness. This can be done by soliciting feedback from participants and monitoring the outcomes of the meeting. It is important to make adjustments as necessary to ensure that the board meeting continues to be effective. Celebrate success. It is important to celebrate the successes and accomplishments of the board meeting. This helps to build morale and motivation among the participants and reinforce the importance of the meeting. Recognition can be given to individuals or groups who have contributed to the success of the meeting. In conclusion, evaluating the effectiveness of the board meeting is an important step in improving its overall performance. By following the above steps, you can ensure that the evaluation process is thorough and effective if in identifying areas for improvement. This will ultimately lead to a more productive and successful board meeting.